Hi everyone, Mr. Mortella here, and today I'm going to introduce you to Earth science. We're going to talk about why the study of the Earth is important. We'll talk about the 5 Earth systems in this video, and we'll take a look at each of those 5 systems, how they interact, how they work together, and how you really can't treat one of them separate from the others. So let's get into it today. First, what is Earth science? That's the question that we're going to ask first, and hopefully I can give you a solid answer to that. Earth science is the study of Earth's interior, from the core all the way out to the crust, its rocks, its soil, its atmosphere, its oceans, and even outer space. So as we study Earth science this year, we actually begin in outer space, and then we kind of work our way through Earth's interior, through the Earth's surface. We talk about the atmosphere, the oceans, and all of that stuff. So the one thing that I really think is valuable about Earth science is there's really nothing that you study that doesn't affect you in some way, shape, or form. So students are normally pretty good at identifying the connections between this particular subject and their lives. Earth science is about connections. Today, what scientists do is they look more for the connections amongst the different parts of the Earth, how its oceans interact with its atmosphere, how living things interact with the geosphere, how the water on this planet and the way that it's distributed affects the atmosphere in the geosphere and the biosphere, all living things. So it doesn't make sense to study these different Earth systems separately, okay? As you study them, you need to understand that if you affect one of these systems, essentially you affect them all. And a little bit later on in this course, we're going to take a look at climate change. And that's a great example of how if you affect the atmosphere, it can affect a lot of other things on this planet. So let's start with a little bit of Earth science vocabulary. You should get these terms down in your notebook if you are taking this course. Heat energy from inside the Earth and radiation from the sun provide energy for all the Earth processes that we're going to talk about. You've already learned that everything starts with the sun, all right? So let's take a look at some vocabulary words here that you're going to need to familiarize yourself with because we're going to use them all year long. First, energy. Energy is simply the ability to cause change. Evaporation. You guys should be familiar with this. It's the process by which liquid changes into gas. Convection. If I could rename this course, I think I would call it Convection 101. Convection is when hot material rises, cools, and then sinks until it's heated enough to rise again. So think of a lava lamp and how a lava lamp works. That demonstrates convection. And we're going to learn how convection is an important process inside of the Earth. It also is important to our weather, to the movement of water in our oceans, and all of those things. If convection stops, then essentially, if we lose the difference between hot and cold in fluids, then a lot of Earth processes stop. The last vocabulary word that I want you to be familiar with here is radiation. Radiation is energy that moves in certain types of waves. So I bet you could think of certain types of radiation as you're watching this video. Microwave radiation, all right? You also have solar radiation. And so anything that travels in the form of a wave, it radiates, okay? So make sure you have these words down and make sure that you're familiar with them. Let's quickly talk about why Earth science is important. Well, first of all, Understanding Earth's process makes it possible to do things like to know what types of crops to plant and when to plant them, where to plant them. It helps us to know when to watch for dangerous weather and to understand what steps we need to take to keep ourselves safe. And it'll also help us to predict maybe volcanoes erupting so that we can get people to safety and save lives. Earth science is about survival. It's about living on a planet, living with the planet, and keeping a certain balance. So, if we were running through our textbooks, we would start with views of Earth today, all right? And you see these images here, these 3 different images. They're all images of Earth, but what you're seeing are 3 different computer-generated images. This one here shows the hole in the ozone layer that we had back in the 90s. Here is an image of the Earth with all the oceans drained away. And this image here is sort of like an infrared image. It's showing the heat, the sea surface temperatures in certain parts of the world. So you see here, we go from reds, which are the warmer portions, down to the oranges, yellows, greens, blues, and then whites, which are the coolest portions. So we have a lot of different technologies that we use to map the Earth and also to be able to view the Earth over time, I should say, all right, to see and to be able to track changes on the surface. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that the Earth system has 5 major parts, okay? 5 parts, right? It has the anthrosphere, the biosphere, the hydrosphere, the geosphere, and the atmosphere. In the next video, we will go through each one of these spheres and we'll talk about what it includes and how it might be affected by the others. Thanks for joining in and watching my intro to Earth science. I hope it was helpful. We'll be back really soon with the rest of this information as we break down the 5 parts of the Earth system.